Madam Speaker, I rise today to support the HALT All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act, which passed the House of Representatives earlier today. This bill fixes a critical loophole and empowers law enforcement to continue to have the tools they need to prevent fentanyl distribution in communities across America. We are seeing staggering amounts of fentanyl pour across the southern border, flooding our communities with illicit and lethal pills, killing tens of thousands of Americans every year. This is now the leading cause of death for young people in our country. More than car accidents, more than suicides, more than anything. It is affecting every community in our country, including my own. During the State of the Union a few months ago, I was honored to have as my guests two of our nation's leading advocates for fentanyl awareness, the parents of a young man named Zach Didier, who tragically lost his life to fentanyl. He was a senior at Whitney High School, a standout student with no history of drug use, and from one pill, he tragically lost his life. His parents had to go through the gut-wrenching experience of seeing him get letters in the mail accepting him to some of our nation's leading universities after he had passed away. There is simply no doubt that addressing the fentanyl crisis will save the lives of many of my constituents and of people in every community in our country. And this act, the HALT All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act, is a major step in that direction. In fact, the act itself is common sense. Fentanyl is currently classified as a Schedule I drug, which gives the Drug Enforcement Agency the power to enforce and arrest criminals involved in producing and distributing fentanyl. To avoid prosecution, criminals have begun to manufacture drugs nearly chemically identical to fentanyl. Now, these drugs are just as deadly. They mimic fentanyl in every way, but they don't fall under the technical definition of fentanyl. In response, the Department of Justice and DEA temporarily classified these fentanyl-related substances as Schedule I drugs. This common sense act makes this temporary classification permanent rather than letting it expire. Giving law enforcement the tools they need to prosecute those responsible and involved in the fentanyl crisis, from producers to dealers, is a critical component of the multi-pronged approach needed to save lives and stop fentanyl from destroying our communities. And we know this approach works. After the DEA classified fentanyl-related substances as Schedule I drugs, law enforcement encounters of these fentanyl copycat drugs fell by over 90%. I urge my colleagues in the Senate to support a proven measure that will save lives and to vote aye on the HALT All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act, which just passed the House today with bipartisan support and has the support of President Biden as well.